With Xiao's rerun next, here is a tier list for his weapons, updated for 3.4. Before I start, I just want to say that weapon strength varies based on a lot of different things, such as teams, weapon refinement ranks, and artifacts. If you don't agree with anything I say, take everything I say with a grain of salt. There is wiggle room for a lot of weapons to be either stronger or weaker. Let's just jump right into it. First, the 3-star weapons. Black Tassel and Halberd are not good, and they get replaced later. White Tassel is a decent option if you can manage to get it to refinement rank 5. It gives a decent amount of crit rate, as well as normal attack damage bonus. It does get replaced by 4 and 5-star weapons later, but it is still a decent choice. Now on to the 4-star weapons. First, Black Cliff Pole. This weapon is a very good stat stick on Xiao. It gives crit damage and 510 base attack. The passive is not useful against bosses, but it's still very good on him in things like Spiral Abyss, where you can defeat multiple enemies and take advantage of the passive. Next weapon, Crescent Pike. This weapon gives physical damage bonus, which is completely useless on Xiao. It also buffs normal and charged attack damage only, and does not provide any plunging attack damage bonus. Unless you are using Xiao as a physical damage main DPS, this weapon is useless. Next, Deathmatch. While Deathmatch provides a lot of crit rate for Xiao, it also has a really low base attack. Ideally, you want to play Xiao with a high base attack, especially if you're running him with something like 4-piece Vermilion. Deathmatch is not a bad option on him, but because of the low base attack, I'm placing it a little bit lower than the other weapons. Next weapon, Dragon's Bane. This weapon is only good in Swirl, but the only time you play Xiao in Swirl is when you're coping and your 4-piece Viridescent set is better than your 4-piece Vermilion set. Otherwise, this weapon is pretty garbage on him. Next, Dragon Spine Spear. So this weapon is absolutely useless on him. The physical damage bonus is wasted, and it has a very low base attack. As far as Xiao is concerned, this weapon is useless, worthless, and should disappear. Next, Favonius Lance. In some certain teams, this weapon can actually be pretty good. Although it's not one of the best weapons to put on him, it does have its uses. He can use this weapon to get his burst up a lot more often, as well as batterying other teammates. Next, Kitayan Cross Spear. This weapon is similar to Favonius Lance, but you can think of it as a more selfish version. Basically, it increases elemental skill damage, and then he loses some energy, but gains it back over time. This is a good weapon for getting his burst back up. It also has a 565 base attack, just like Favonius Lance. The only downside of this weapon is that the main stat is Elemental Mastery, which is not very helpful on Xiao. Next weapon, Lithic Spear. So this weapon gets stronger the more Li Yue characters you have in your party. If you can manage to get this to refinement rank 5, this weapon is definitely S tier. For general use purposes, this is still a pretty solid option on him, regardless of whether you care about the passive or not. Next weapon, Missive Wind Spear. This weapon gives a lot of attack. It also provides some elemental mastery, but it's not that helpful on Xiao. Not an amazing weapon, but not terrible either. Next weapon, Moon Piercer. This weapon is associated with Dendro related reactions, so it's not really that good on Xiao. While it does have the exact same stats as Kitayan Cross Spear, it doesn't help him get his burst back up. This is more of a support weapon, and because Xiao is an on-field main DPS, this weapon isn't really that good on him. Next weapon, Prototype Star Glitter. This weapon provides a decent base attack as well as a lot of energy recharge. It also provides normal and charged attack damage. Not the greatest weapon, but not terrible either. You should run this on him if you don't have any other weapons to use. Next weapon, Royal Spear. This weapon has a pretty high base attack at 565, and the main stat is attack percentage. The passive provides ramping crit rate, which is nice to have, but it's a bit inconsistent sometimes. This is still a good weapon to put on him, but there are better options. Next weapon, the Catch. The weapon's passive is completely useless on him because Xiao doesn't benefit from elemental burst damage. However, the weapon still has a 510 base attack, as well as some decent energy recharge. Next weapon, Wavebreaker's Fin. So this weapon has a really high base attack at 620 for a 4-star weapon. The issue here is that Xiao doesn't benefit from elemental burst damage, making this weapon a lot less valuable. Besides the really high base attack, this weapon doesn't provide anything else for Xiao. Other weapons provide either more crit stats or attack percentage, or some energy recharge. Wavebreaker's Fin just has a really high base attack, and that's it. Alright, on to the 5-star weapons. First, we have Calamity Queller. Xiao has the highest base attack in the whole game, and since Calamity Queller also gives a really high base attack, this weapon is amazing on him. It also provides all elemental damage bonus, which is really nice to have. With really good artifacts and a proper setup, Calamity Queller is top tier. But for general purpose uses, I would say it's S tier just based on how much attack it provides for Xiao. Next weapon, Engulfing Lightning. While this weapon looks good on him, it's actually not the greatest. It's still usable on him as he can utilize the energy recharge as well as the attack percentage, but the other 5-star weapons are a little bit better. Just like Calamity Queller, if you have really good artifacts, this weapon becomes a lot better on him. Next, Primordial Jadewing Spear. This is his signature weapon, and he can fully utilize the passive. All of the attack percentage that he gains from this weapon can be utilized by him because he has the highest base attack in the whole game. When the attack stacks are maxed out, he also gains a damage bonus, which also enhances his lamentability. Next weapon, Skyward Spine. This weapon pretty much allows you to run artifacts without any energy recharge on them. It also provides a little bit of crit rate. Skyward Spine is a very solid choice on Xiao. Next, Staff of Homa. Since Xiao loses HP during his elemental burst, he can take full advantage of Staff of Homa's passive. When he's under half HP, he gains even more attack, which also benefits from the crit damage that this weapon provides. Staff of Homa is very strong. Next, Staff of the Scarlet Sands. This weapon is very similar to Deathmatch. It's basically just a crit stick. It provides 44% crit rate, which is a lot. The Elemental Mastery passive part of this weapon is not very helpful, but it's still a usable weapon on Xiao. And finally, Vortex Vanquisher. So just like the other Geo weapons, the shielding mechanic isn't the greatest. But people run Xiao with shields most of the time anyway. If you can maintain the passive while shielded, this weapon is actually very good. So this is my weapon tier list for Xiao's weapons as of 3.4. Hopefully I covered everything that was important. If you have any other questions regarding his weapon, you can ask me down in the comments. For those of you who plan to pull on Xiao, good luck getting him. No chi-chis.